If both the spot XRP ETF and the Solana spot ETF are accepted on the same day, it will be one of the most exciting head-to-head launches in coin history. Now comes the million-dollar question. Who has the most money coming in during those first few crucial days? We have numbers that might surprise you, opinions from experts, and information from people who know it better than you. Please note that this is not financial advice before we start to break it down. You decide how big this could be. I'm just telling you what's going right now. Now, one last thing. We've had a situation kind of like this before. As soon as futures-based Solana ETFs and then options ETFs tied to Solana came out, they did pretty well. But when XRP's versions came out, more flows came in. It's true that futures ETFs will never be as powerful as spot ETFs, but that sneak peek gives us a good idea. Now, here's the deal. There is already a fake spot. A Rex share Osprey product called Solana found a way to work like spot exposure by using staking flaws. It has been doing well. Several experts say that XRP might do better than Solana in the early sessions of launch day, though. Why? One word, passion. When it comes to crypto communities, XRP stands out from the rest. If you've spent any time on TikTok, Reddit, X, Twitter, or even Facebook groups, you know this. There are tens of thousands of retail holders who have been carefully building up their holdings while waiting for this level of regulatory clarity. For them, XRP is going to be the backbone of all global bank transaction systems. That story sticks in your mind. It gets around and causes a huge demand on the first day. From the point of view of institutions, Solana's name comes up in a lot more high-level conversations than you might think. Hedge fund experts and asset allocators think that Solana and Ethereum are the more likely to be successful. This isn't because they don't like XRP, but because Solana's ecosystem looks more like a typical high-growth tech play. It works quickly, is easy for developers to use, and is pushing the limits of DeFi, NFTs, and tokenization. This is where things get heated. About 90% of the trade on Solana's DEX is memo coin. That's not what I think. That is what the numbers on the chain say. There's nothing wrong with me for volume. But when it comes to big institutional money, it's strange that 9 out of 10 trades on your network are for speculative tokens that have no real value. XRP, on the other hand, has something that Solana does not: clear U.S. court case law. A federal court decision in 2023 said that XRP is not a bond, getting rid of a huge cloud of doubt. The SEC is still after Solana. That is a very important thing for BlackRock, CK, Fidelity, and other ETF producers to think about when they decide how much money to put into a launch. Another way to compare is the raw market cap. The last time we checked, XRP was worth about $174 billion, which is almost twice as much as Solana's $88 billion. It's easy to see why the smart money thinks XRP will win at first. It has more spot trading liquidity than Solana's futures ETF, and its debut was at best lukewarm. One of the experts said it all very well. Buyers of ETFs on the first day are not your typical crypto skeptics. The next airdrop is not being looked for in on-chain charts. They are enthusiastic small investors who have been looking for a safe way to use their brokerage account to get exposure. That's where XRP really shines. And believe me, that love is real. There were 2,200 people in every seat at an XRP meeting in Las Vegas on a Saturday. When was the last time you saw a trade show do that on the weekend? So experts say that even if 90% of people don't like XRP, the 10% that do will move a lot of money in the first few days. Solana could challenge or even pass XRP if it does really well at launch, like if there's a big change in the story or a great app that breaks all the records. But right now, if you want to know what the worst case scenario is, XRP is the clear winner, while Solana is planning to take the lead months from now. But here's the catch. In the background, there's a whole other much bigger story that could make the ETF hype of today look small. What Jake Claver said about derivatives comes into play here. If you don't know the name of Ripple's offering yet, you will after hearing him talk about it. Codius is a platform for storing smart contracts that is not centralized. When Ripple started in 2014, it took a break. When the technology caught up, it quietly started up again. Codius smart contracts are different from Ethereum-style smart contracts because Codius runs contracts off-chain on a network of hosts. This makes it much easier for contracts to scale and work with other smart contracts. The best part is now here. It works with Ripple's interledger system, which means that assets can be moved easily between blockchains like XRP and Bitcoin. Why does this matter? Because the market for futures, options, swaps, and other complicated financial products is thought to be worth between $400 and $4 quadrillion. That's right, quadrillion with a Q. There is a problem with derivatives right now. No one can properly measure or keep track of the long-term risk. Part of what caused the financial crisis of 2008 was the lack of transparency. It's not just a financial innovation. If you suddenly had a clear, interoperable smart contract system that could handle complex derivatives, settle them quickly via XRP, and keep track of risk across multiple ledgers, that changes everything about the world markets. Claver thinks that in that case, the price of XRP could range from $10 to $50,000 in 5 years. Some people think this is the end game for Ripple because of the demand for derivatives, the adoption by institutions, the liquidity of ETFs, and the fact that the settlement asset is already clear from a legal point of view. It's not just an idea either. Codius can work with assets that are spread across multiple ledgers, run contracts written in any major computer language, and charge charges in XRP. As more smart contracts use XRP as payment, the desire for it grows. Every institutional derivative deal that is settled through Codius could lock in the value of XRP for many years. The short-term story is still this while that's going on in the background. Day of acceptance for XRP versus Solana ETF. There are two big players, two different stories, and billions of dollars in possible imports at stake. One side has unmatched retail muscle, a clear understanding of the law, and a long-term settlement goal. On the other side, there is attention from institutions, a tech-forward ecosystem, and a lot of developer momentum. Remember that the saved comment has everything you need if you're watching this and thinking, I want to be ready for the next moment like this. The second part might not look at all like the fireworks on the first day. During the first 72 hours, the flows are driven by emotion and desire. But after the first wave of individual money flows into ETFs, institutional capital starts to move in. And institutions have different ideas. They don't care as much about hype as they do about long-term liquidity, counterparty risk, yield chances, and whether the network they're backing can grow to support applications worth trillions of dollars. This is where Solana can help. Institutions are paying close attention to how Solana's story is changing. As of now, 90% of its DEX volume is driven by microcoins, but the chain is working hard to get real-world assets, tokenized, high-speed trade infrastructure built, and next-generation DeFi platforms built. If they are successful, the Memocane name will go away, and Solana will be known as the best Rails provider for tokenized everything from real estate to treasury bills. Long-term ETF flows could then move in Solana's favor. The price of XRP is still going up. There's been a quiet rise in the interest in XRP among institutions since the 2023 decision on legal clarity. People at finance meetings are talking more and more about how to integrate the XRP ledger with digital currencies issued by central banks, CBDC, pilots, corporate settlement layers, and even derivatives platforms like Codius. That's why the people who make ETFs are so sure that the product will last. This is where things get interesting. Different kinds of derivatives. The swaps market is much bigger than the exchange-rated funds ETFs market. As Codius builds a derivatives clearing and settlement system, XRP will be needed for the payment of all contracts, no matter how big or small they are. This includes $10 million futures deals and $10 billion options books. Not just a one-time hype spike, but an ongoing demand cycle is made that way. Take a look at it this way. ETFs are like a starter. They bring interest to the market, make money available, and allow regular investors to take part. But what about derivatives? That's the main dish. A lot of money goes through there every day, and infrastructure providers get paid for decades. Ripple is aware of this. All the way back in 2014, they were planning for Codius and Interledger, even though no one was ready for it. And this derivatives integration is what people mean when they talk about a $10 million XRP possibility. As Jake Claver said, not just ETF flows, but a whole new set of financial rules based on XRP resolution. One more thing to think about is the SEC's stance. Even though the law is clearer about XRP, Solana is still being looked at closely. The SEC hasn't fully changed its mind, and that lingering doubt is important. If institutional investors think that Solana's position as a security could make it harder for ETFs to be adopted, they may limit their exposure until the regulatory picture gets better. In the short to medium run, that means more air for XRP. When we talk about oxygen, desire is still what keeps the fire going. There were other XRP conferences after the one in Vegas. Events for XRP are full all over the world. Twitter Spaces have thousands of followers, and news about Ripple's relationships gets around faster than any blockchain PR team could hope for. This widespread interest leads to steady flows of money, especially from small buyers who buy ETFs on a dollar cost average over time. However, both assets are better at this one thing: building stories. Picture a world where both ETFs are released and do well. The media frenzy would make crypto ETFs more popular, bringing in billions of dollars from buyers who hadn't even thought about the asset class before. While XRP and Solana are seen as competitors, a rising tide boosts all boats. This is why now, not later, is the best time to set your plans in stone. Once they say yes, you won't have days to make up your mind. It's not filler. It includes real frameworks, secret visuals, and step-by-step guides on how to find asymmetric opportunities before they become huge. The comment below that was pinned has it. This is the exact kind of market situation where being ready is key. That being said, what comes next after launch week? That's when arbitrage desks, market makers, and liquidity sources start to change how the ETFs move. ETF shares will follow if Solana's on-chain TVL starts to rise because of real-world use cases. Its flows could speed up even more if XRP starts to lock in more institutional payment routes or if Codius-based contracts catch on. And while ETF news is all the rage, keep an eye out for the quiet moves. Ripple is hiring people for jobs and derivatives. Solana is adding big banks as customers and new payment corridors that cross-chains are going live. A lot of the time, these small stories show where the next big trends are going before they reach the main news cycle. What we need to do is clear from where I am. XRP got all the attention on day one. Long-term gains are most likely to come from Solana's ecosystem growth, but XRP's swaps integration is the most unlikely outcome. If Codius takes off, it could be much stronger than any other trigger. As the timer keeps going down until possible acceptance, make sure you're in the right place. As the price moves and important milestones are reached, keep an eye on both and be ready to act when the warning is clear. Because in crypto, each turn there is less time between being too early and too late.